Hello Wargamers, and welcome to episode 2 of my Q&A series. It's been probably about a month since the first one, and sorry about that. I just haven't got that many questions, so yeah, it'll kind of go just as often as I get a handful of questions that I feel like I can really talk about. And so that will probably be about once a month, maybe every couple weeks, somewhere in there. So if you really want a question answered right away, let's say you have a game coming up and you want my opinion on it, on a list or something, just message me or just let me know that you have a little bit more of a time concern with it, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Not necessarily in a video, but in some way, whether that's a comment or a message or something. So yeah, on with the questions.
Javier Gonzalez asks, how would you deal against Grey Knights? 3 Dread Knights, 2 Storm Ravens, Paladins with Drago, and Apothecary.
So as far as Grey Knights go, those are pretty standard units that you will encounter. And yeah, I think probably the best way to deal with it would be as follows. For the Dread Knights, they're monstrous creatures, so lots of Kroot. Having Kroot with sniper rounds can be a really good way to take out Dread Knights. The only problem with that, though, is that they are only range 24, and Grey Knights have that shunt ability that allows them to really get in your face quickly. And so you have to kind of temper the Kroot with something else, potentially. But as far as just a straight up what would be good to field against Dread Knights, Kroot. Simple. Maybe throw in a buff commander if you have time, or if you want to do that, throw in a buff commander so that they get Monster Hunter. That's going to make them even more effective at taking out Dread Knights. Storm Ravens. Storm Ravens are pretty tough flyers to handle. So really the 3 options that you have are broadsides. You can always take missile sides and just throw a bunch of strength 7 shots at them, which will probably do the job. But you could also go with a Skyray. Skyray is going to be a great option there too, especially since Skyfire, Seeker missiles, marker lights. That's about all you could ask for, really. And so Skyrays are going to be another really good option for taking out Storm Ravens. And then your third aspect was Paladins with Drago and Apothecary. Again, more Kroot or potentially Crisis Suits with Plasma Rifle, Fusion Blasters, Buff Commander in there, anything like that. Riptides, because of their Strength 8 AP2 Blast, it's going to be great for taking out units like that. And if you throw a Buff Commander in with a Riptide, ignores cover plus AP2, they're going to be hurting, except for, of course, invulnerable saves and other fancy tricks like that. So yeah, that's what I would recommend for taking out Grey Knights.
The Wallio asks, the XV9 suits that Forgeworld have, what are your thoughts on them? And if you had them, how would you use them?
So the Forgeworld XV9 suits are pretty sweet models. I wish I had them. They're just cool models, love to field them, just for that aspect alone. I don't have them. I don't have the luxury to have any Forgeworld models or ever played using Forgeworld models, anything like that. But I do have some understanding of the rules for them. And the hazard suits with burst cannons are great. I think that's what a lot of people use. And even though they're not as great as they used to be, prior to the new codex, they were absolutely amazing, and now they are still pretty good, but not as good as they were before. I would basically just deep strike them in and take out some unit right off the bat. Having that overwhelming torrent of fire, short range, just deep strike it in behind their lines and take out a particularly sensitive unit can be really advantageous. And so that's how I would use XV9 suits, is just deep strike them and use them like that. and then offering support by your more long-range units like your Riptide or broadsides or anything like that.
Raul Julia asks, how do you deal with tanks from Imperials? Also, how do you deal with fast assault?
So if you want to know more about my anti-tank strategy, look at the last Q&A video. I talked about basically what I do in that video. But for fast assault, it really depends on what unit you're facing. Each unit is going to require a slightly different tactic. Now, if it's something like Fleshhounds, you basically just need to pour your whole army into taking them out because they're really fast. And they'll just get up on you and... well, I guess they're dogs, so they'd probably like hump your leg or something. But yeah. So Fleshhounds, you just gotta pour a lot of shots into them right off the bat and prevent them from getting in your face. Something a little bit more durable, potentially, like Rays. Again, you still have to pour a lot of shots into them. Use Kroot screens, so kind of set yourself up so that you can take an assault and then supporting fire that assault, and then have like multiple layers of units ready to offer supporting fire and absorb some assaults. If it's something like Assault Marines, they are poor Assault Marines. They got kind of a bad end of the deal here because their power armor, which Tau are great at taking care of. Just throw some Riptides or Crisis Suits or Kroot at them, and they'll melt away pretty quickly. So Assault Marines, I'm not that worried about. It's other things like Wraiths and Fleshhounds that I'm more concerned about. And those you just have to be, cognizant of how quickly they're going to be on you, and so you dedicate the appropriate amount of firepower to getting rid of them, but also knowing that it's okay to back away. So if you need to back away from an objective to stay out of combat, it's probably worth doing.
Coolskin asks, so can you tell me what the best Tau army is they play on a tournament? Because of what I hear, there is this list that is unbeatable if you play with anything else.
So, Coolskin, you asked me this question a little bit ago because it was with that first set of questions that I got. But and so the answer is going to be a little bit different now than it was when you first asked me. But that said, there's still not going to be a perfect list. There's no perfect list. A lot of it has to do with the player and the strategy behind the list, right? You could give the best list to a player and they can do amazing with it because they're a skilled player. You can also give that same list to a complete noob and they will utterly fail. It's not the list, it's the player, but the list helps, a little bit. But yeah, so the list that a lot of people are talking about that I think is still relatively common, especially if you're not including Eldar allies or anything like that, is a buff commander, an ethereal, riptides, as many as you can take at your point level, broadsides and sky rays, and lots of Kroot. That's it. Basically, you have your sky rays for anti-air, give you some marker light support. You have your Kroot in order to just overwhelm any infantry unit with shots. You have Riptides, not necessarily to do damage, although they do pack a punch, but Riptides are important because they are durable enough that they will often last until the end of the game, especially if you don't unnecessarily risk Nova Charge wounds. So basically the deal with the Riptides is that they'll stay till the end of the game and then they can just jump on top of an objective and contest it. And by doing so, you are denying your opponent those points, right? And so then any remaining Kroot that you have or anything else can claim objective, and it becomes a relatively low point difference game, right? So if there's 5 objectives and you have Riptides on 3 of them, then you really only need to worry about 2 objectives. So that's how the Riptides work. Buff Commander, of course, is there to give Twin Linked, ignores cover, stuff like that. which just is a force multiplier. And ethereal is there similarly to be a utility aspect, just like ethereal always is. So that's the general outline of the list: is ethereal, buff commander, riptides, Kroot, broadsides, skyrays. Broadsides are there just because they put out a ton of shots, and they're stronger than Kroot. So, yeah, I think that's probably the list that people are talking about. We'll see how that list fares as the Space Marine Codex becomes more prevalent. A lot of people are talking about bringing, white scars, bike lists, grav guns, things like that, which will obviously have a big impact on riptides and broadsides and tanks, which are big aspects of that list. So, and even though the Codex has been out for a couple weeks now, it takes people time to get that many bikes painted, assembled, tabletop ready. And so I think probably by Adepticon we'll see something very different as far as the meta is concerned and what that good Tau list will entail. All right, that's all the questions for this round of Q&A. Thank you for watching. If you liked the video, I think you know what to do. And if you have questions that you'd like me to answer, post them in the comments below, and I will gladly get to them in the next Q&A video. Happy wargaming!